we continue with our next sessions, which are like the paper presentations by all the scholars. And towards this, the first one to come is Ms. Kausiki. She's studying, she's a student at IIT. So over to you.
Namaste, I am Kausiki. My friends Varuneshwar and Aniruddha, three of us are doing PhD at CISTS, IIT, Self-Oriented Science and Technology in Sanskrit. We've been studying the Saptarṣi cycle for some time. So we thought we will share what we have read. We just realized that we are over-ambitious to have chosen this topic, but we have come to seek the Seers for your advice and suggestions and inputs and some direction as to on this topic. Yeah. This is about the Saptarṣi cycle, the mysterious Saptarṣi cycle, which is referred to in the Purāṇās and some of the Siddhāntas in Bhāgavatapurāṇa, etc. Saptarṣis, as you know, even yesterday some scholars have mentioned, this is traditionally identified as the Big Dipper in the Ursamajor constellation in the northern sky. The Bhāgavatapurāṇa mentions that the Rishayas, they are moving, they are seen moving in the clockwise direction in the northern sky around the whole Dhruva. We have given the names also: Kratu, Pulaha, Pulastya, Atri, Angira, Vasishta, and Marichi are the 7 stars in that order. Okay, Bhagavata says they are moving in a clockwise direction, but we understand that in diurnal motion is anti-clockwise, at least from India, the way we observe it. So, only clockwise motion we could see is in the precession cycle of 26,000 years. But the literary texts talk about a 2,700 year cycle. We will see the references. Next slide. Next, please. Can you zoom in? Viṣṇupurāṇa mentions that Yavat Parikshito Janma. Actually, the context is in the description of the dynasties, the kings who ruled in Kali from post-Mahābharata war. They are enlisting the dynasties and kings, and in the framework of a Saptarṣi calendrical cycle. And they are saying that at the time of the birth of Parikshit, or at the beginning of Kali, or when Bhagavan Krishna left this world for heaven, from that moment Kali started, and at that time the Saptarshis were in Magha Nakshatra. And till Nanda's coronation, Nanda is the king of the Nanda dynasty, Mahapadmananda. Till his time, 1015 years have passed. This is one version. Another Purāṇa gives another version, that is Panchashatottaram, 1500 years. There are several versions. However, this version says that in 10-15 years, Saptarshis have moved from Magha Nakshatra to Purvashaya. Now, Saptarshinam tu yau purvo drishyate yuditau gidi, tayostu madhye nakshatram drishyate yat samam nishi. How to identify in which star they stay is what is given in this. The first 2 stars which rise, when they are rising in the sky, the star seen in line with the in between midpoint of those 2 stars. The star seen rising in the east is the star in which they are posited for 100 years, is what is explained here we could make, the meaning we could make from this is this. And as I mentioned, Devi Parikshite Kale, Mahāswasan Dijotama, then started the 1200 years, divine years, Kali. Kali started then, Kali age, which is of 1200 divine years. Divine year is 360 human years. So 432,000 years is the Kali duration mentioned here. Then this same Saptarṣināṃ Puro Vrishade, this is seen in other Purāṇās also. Next slide, please. Same in Matsyapurāṇa, the same verse is seen. And Matsyapurāṇa gives this that Saptarṣis tada pranchu pradipten agdina sama. Saptarshis were earlier seen to have been along with the, shining bright along with Agni. Agni perhaps is referred to Kritika, Agni Nakshatra. And then after 2700 years, they are again during the time of the Andhra kings, they are again in Kritika. That's what they're saying. And it says that Saptarshis move for 60 divine years. Sama Divya Smrta Śiṣyadhīvṛddhitantra is what is mentioned here. Interestingly, they're talking about a 21,600 years cycle also. Same sloka again repeats. See the method of observation, basically to see the midpoint of the first two stars rising. Same thing, Maghayuktaha Kale Parikshite Shakam. Bhāgavatapurāṇa also says the same slokas, more or less, we see from the Bhāgavatapurāṇa also, which I mentioned. From Magha, they move to Purvachara during this 10-15 years, or 1050 years, or 1115 years. There are several versions mentioned in several Puranas. Now, this is what is we found in the Puranas. In Brihat Samhita of Varahamihira, in the Saptarṣi we have the reference to Vruddhagarga's opinion, in which the famous oft-quoted shloka is in Asan Magha Sumanaya Shashati Prudhrim Yudhishthire Nrapatau Shadvika Panchadvita Shakakalas Tasya Ragnischa. So scholars try to see traditionally from the Puranas, that the beginning of Kali, then demise of Krishna, Mahabharata war, Yudhishthira, and birth of Parikshita, all are placed around the same time, in 10-15 years. Okay, but this shloka is a problem because it says the distance between Yudhishthira's time and Shakakala is given as 2.26 years. This place is apparently the Shakakala, and this is taken as the Shalvahan Shaka of 78 CE. This places Yudhishthira's reign as in 653 Kali, 2448 BC. Now, see, we come to know from Vruddhagarga's opinion that Kalidvapara Sandhotu Sthitaste Pitrudaivatam. They are in Magha Nakshatra. Pitrudevata is Magha Nakshatra. And but Varamihira's verse places this in 653 Kali. But that is the problem here. Some scholars have suggested that this Shakakala may be an older Shakakala of 7th century BCE or 6th century BCE, which would again place Yudhishthira's time in 3102 BC. I'm not going into that topic right now because we want to discuss more about the formulae given, the discussion around the count of the position of the Saptarshis in some Siddhāntas. Kalhana's Rajatarangini also refers to Rahamihira's shloka of Asan Maghasu. But Kalhana, interestingly, doesn't combine both Saptarshi Kala, which we find in current Panchangas also. the Laukikabda and Saptarṣikala, which are identified as one now, Kalhana doesn't mention them as the same. He mentions Laukikabda separately in terms of 24th year, he says. But Saptarṣi's cycle is again mentioned as per Purāṇic tradition only. Like he says, they were Yudhishthira's time when they were in Magha Nakshatra. That's why he doesn't give any count to that number. We don't know when these both got identified together in history. This is just to see that till now the sources which we have seen agree that it's 100-year stay in each nakshatra assigned to the Saptarshis, either backward. Some Purāṇas talk about a forward movement, some count backward movement, and all of them agree that they were in Magha Nakshatra during Kalindvara Sandhi. Next. So coming to the Siddhāntas, Mahāsiddhānta of Āryabhaṭa II mentions that the Saptarshis make Kuni Dudi Dudija 15,99998 revolutions in a kalpa. That comes to around 1600 in a Mahayuga, which is again 2700 years cycle. In Vateshwara Siddhānta, we find this verse which mentions Buddha-Goshthayaha, 1692 revolutions it makes in a Mahayuga. I don't know why what made him give this correction. He says, according to this, then it should come to some 2520 years, or Saptarshis was staying in each nakshatra for 94.5 years or something.
Must be the reverse, no? If it's the Katapayadi.
It is not
No,
Aryabhatiya system.
Right to left.
Aryabhatiya system.
Aryabhaṭa.
Aryabhata.
Is different.
This is not Katrayadi, no?
She's saying it's Aryabhatiya.
Aryabhatiya system, that is different.
No, this is Aryabhaṭa II. This is Katapayadi, but this Katapayadi instead of going from left to right,
Okay,
it goes from
goes
right.
right to okay. Then not the traditional Katrayadi.
It's going left to right. Normally it goes
Right to left. Vamato Gati, this is whatever subject of it.
So, Vateshwara Siddhānta, in Saptarṣishara we find that he mentions Nagadrut Ganitaihi Varshaihi Kalehe, same again 2700 years. And Adhva, he says Kaligata Varshaihi Manunitaihi Chapareshantaihi. He is referring to Lallāchārya's formula given. From the Kali year, you subtract 14, Manunitaihi, and then divide by 100. He says, we will look at that.
They
Vateshwara is
also
referring
give
to
that
Lallāchārya.
statement that the first two nakshatras and the middle point. Do Siddhāntas mention that?
No, sir. No, so the method of
No, not
observing.
that. Saptarshi being associated with a nakshatra means
Mm.
you observe the first two stars and the.
They don't mention. They don't
They don't
mention. They don't
What
mention.
is it? I didn't understand it. First to start being what?
No. The Purāṇās are mentioning that Saptarshi is supposed to be in a nakshatra means that the first two stars when they rise. That
The
Purāṇa.
Pointers.
So
So
you have to explain that first two people.
I just did.
no, only Brihad Samhita mentions.
I've done a whole simulation.
I know.
Talk about it.
Brihad Samhita mentions that Prabhudayotopya Vivara Drijonnayati Tatra Samyuktaha. When the star on the eastern horizon, eastern sun is rising, the star on this, okay, when the Saptarshis are clear, conspicuous, the star on the eastern sky rising is the position, is the star in which they are posited for 100 years, is what it says. And one version says that they always rise along with the Arundhati. That's all.
That is where that was.
In Brihad Samhita.
That's because there are two versions.
One shloka has two versions. So, next. So this is the formula Lallāchārya gave to count the position of the Saptarshis. He says From the Kali year, subtract 14 and divide by 100 to get the number of stars from Virinchi Nakshatra. Virinchi Nakshatra is taken as Prajapati Nakshatra, Rohini, and Mallikarjuna Suri in his commentary takes it as Rohini, whereas Munīśvara says that if we take this as Rohini, we are not able to agree. You know, he's not, Lallāchārya cannot be reconciled with any of the other scholars like Varahamihira, what Varahamihira is saying. But if it is taken as Virinchi is taken as Shravana Nakshatra, then it agrees with Brahmasiddhānta. We will look at the reference in the Brahmasiddhānta also. But Mallikarjuna Suri, the commentator of Lallāchārya, takes it as a Rohini Nakshatra and says in 1113 CE, in 12th century CE, it is going to be in Mula Nakshatra. That is what Mallikarjuna Suri says. Now, if we come to Vateshwara scholar, Vateshwara 9th century scholar, in his Karanasara, I think, but that is not available to us. We come to know from Al-Biruni that in Karanasara, Vateshwara has given one algorithm to count the position of the Saptarṣi year. And this is what it says. The base year you subtract 821 from the base year and then multiply into 47, then add 68,000 and divide it by 10,000 to get the zodiacal signs travels by the Saptarṣis. And Al-Biruni says that at least around this time, 1031 CE, they were in Anuradha Nakshatra. He is, we can see that he has followed Vateshwara's this formula and then came to that conclusion that during his time in 1031 CE, 953 Shaka, they were in Anuradha Nakshatra.
Albiruni says he observed or
He doesn't say he observed, sir.
he says he calculated it to be.
He doesn't say he calculated also, but he says they are in Anuradha.
This is what it means. For
Yeah, but we can make out that he has followed this. Following this formula, we can come. We will see that in 1031 CE, they are in Anuradha Nakshatra, counting forward from Ashwini Adi.
So Sayana longitude.
No, not Sayana. Nirayana only.
So Nirayana longitude cannot change, no?
It won't change. It is only a count. It's just arithmetic.
It's not talking of the longitude.
The meaning aside is not.
Just yeah.
What is the star rising when the Saptarṣi is rising? That can
No
change.
counting 100 years. They are just counting 100 or 94
Okay.
or 5 years. That's
The
all.
meaning of Saptarṣi being in a
So we have not come to it, sir. We don't know what it is. Astronomically, what it is, we couldn't make out still.
Let me make a comment on this. We did a simulation of this. And Shloka here, Matsyapurāṇa says take the first two stars of Saptarṣi, take the vector where it is pointed and the nakshatra to which it is pointing is the nakshatra of Saptarṣi. And it turns out that in 1200 BC, it is exactly where Parikshit's birth is supposed to be. So that agrees with Mahabharata. The idea was at that time they were looking for a 100-year calendar because they had 1000-year calendars from precession, but they were otherwise it was one annual calendar. And you get 30-year calendar from Jupiter and so on. So they're looking for a 100-year calendar. And that time it actually precesses within a 100-year and goes to next constellation. So everybody was excited saying Saptarṣi will give you a calendar. Unfortunately, because it's not a linear system, it's a sign function system, it takes 700 years to get the next constellation to nakshatra. So they give up the calendar. But the idea that Saptarṣi calendar remains persistent. But the original astronomical observations of Mahabharata time, which show that it moves to one nakshatra in 100 years, is lost. So subsequently, it is all mathematical. But the original idea was that first vector would point to nakshatra, and it does points to Maga at Parikshit's coronation. So
But
Mahabharata.
around what time, sir?
1200
1200 BC. So you are placing
So Mahabharata.
Parikshit.
Yes, Mahabharata 1200 BC in that category, in Saptarṣi calendar. But subsequent calendar movement, it takes 800 years.
But
Even
that is not, let us go to the, what is the meaning of Saptarṣi?
Yeah, so the first mention of the Saptarṣi you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a vector, and see which nakshatra it points to.
But that will be always same, no, because
No,
some
it
don't
won't.
respect each other.
No, because of the precession of the earth, there are certainly, in fact, that vector, see, eventually it becomes pole star. but
Then
then
it, that is only, but star positions remain fixed with respect to
It
each other.
changes, believe me, it changes.
But it was small, no, direct position is small.
Yeah, so that's 100 years to go through one.
This is about your study effect of this session, that article is, that is in 2100 to 2200, he said this in Pushya Nakshatra.
You please, you come. What?
But I remember he was mentioned that it is 2100 to 2200 years. It's a one-time event that happened in Pushya Nakshatra. That's what you mentioned. Okay. So this is Vateshwara's formula. Next. So this is what Munīśvara's Siddhāntasārvabhauma gives. Based on, he discusses some verses from Brahmasiddhānta of Śākalyasamhita, and then based on that he gives this formula. Vrajanti Vasheshta Kala Atotra Rahopajigyabraganathakangaihi Hino Dvinighnas Siddhi Dhir Vibhakto Lavadikoja Pramukhat Pratubsyat. Formula to get position of the subtract 600, multiply by 2, divide by 15 and divide by 30. We will look at the verses in the Brahmasiddhānta of Śākalyasamhita. We couldn't find any translation or commentary of this, so we tried to figure out whatever we could understand. Some important phrases we translated. So, Yugado Viṣṇupurāṇa Praturbhadya Samahita. According to Śākalyasamhita, Yugadi, they were in Viṣṇupurāṇa, which is considered as Shravana Nakshatra, as against the Purāṇic belief that they were in Magha Nakshatra. But this Yugadi, whether it is Mahayugadi or Kali Yugadi, is also not to be. Even we were saying that even if it is taken as Mahayuga or Kali Yuga, it will come to Shravana only, Viṣṇupurāṇa. So in the next verse, they give the amshas, longitude, celestial, ecliptic longitudinal difference between, with respect to Kratu, how many degrees they are situated. And then Vikshepamsa also they give, which we will show in the next slide. Pratyabdam Ragatistesham Ashtavilittam Munīśvara. They are agreeing that every year 8-minute movement. Obviously, they have counted 2700 years over 21,600 minutes in 60 degrees. And then they are saying that every year 8-minute movement is given. So, yeah, they are saying that Pachit Akasmate Bhagavan Uttare Charaha. And Khaka Nakshatra Varshani Tirthanti Munivallabha, 2700 years they were, moving or staying. Next slide. So next I show. This is what we compare the longitudes and latitudes given in Brahmasiddhānta. More or less, it agrees with the modern latitudes and longitudes. So. Al-Biruni, as I mentioned, Al-Biruni says in 1031 CE, they were in Saptarṣis were in Anuradha Nakshatra. Ballalasena in Adbhutasāgara mentions that in 1082 Shaka, that is 1160, Saptarṣis moved 60 years in Vishakha Nakshatra. So if we compare these two, it indicates a backward movement. See, in 1031 they were in Vishakha Nakshatra and 1160 they were in 1031 they were in Anuradha Nakshatra and 1160 they were in Vishakha Nakshatra. As I already mentioned, Mallikarjuna Suri says in 12th century they were in Mula Nakshatra, following Lalla's formula, Lallāchārya's formula. He says counting from Rohini, he says they were in Mula Nakshatra, which doesn't agree with Ballalasena's statement. He says they were in Vishakha Nakshatra in 12th century, whereas Mallikarjuna Suri says, following Lallāchārya's count, they were in Mula Nakshatra. Whether they were counting backward or forward in the reverse order or in the forward or backward order, they're not agreeing with each other, most of them. So, but what we could understand is that Lallāchārya and Purāṇās give 8-minute movement and Vateshwara gives 8.46 minute movement. This is what we can see. Some observations which we already mentioned. Munīśvara places Saptarṣis Shravana Nakshatra at the beginning of Kali on the basis of Brahmasiddhānta. Lallāchārya's formula agrees at all times with Munīśvara only if Virinchi star is taken as Abhijit. According to this, in 2448 BC or 653 Kali, Saptarshis were in Ashwini and not in Magha. The statement from Algorithm at 1031 CE, Saptarshis are in Anuradha can be arrived using Mahāsiddhānta's algorithm. According to Purāṇās, Lallāchārya and Munīśvara, the Saptarṣi cycle is 2700 years, and according to Adbhutasāgara, Saptarṣi cycle is 2553 years.
No, can you go back to the Viṣṇupurāṇa verse?
Viṣṇupurāṇa. Second, third slide, I think. Bhāgavatapurāṇa.
No.
Is the same.
Okay, whichever one. Tayostu madhye nakshatram drishyate yat samam nishi. So that is the one. So what is your explanation of this?
We couldn't see any astronomical phenomena. We couldn't
What
see.
do you understand from this?
When the first two stars, Kratu and Pulaha, are seen rising, maybe Varun is better
No, because
answering.
Bhagya says,
So we have not done any simulations or anything, sir.
and Bhagya says, you take the first two stars, the direction in which they point. Whereas this says something in the middle.
In the middle of the, or in line with the midpoint of the first two nakshatras.
I think we have to make a few points.
No,
Please, sir.
Because the discussion has encouraged me to join in, if you don't mind. The Viṣṇupurāṇa Vyakhyana, which says how it should be seen, when it was written, that is a Sridhari and the Viṣṇuchittaya, they belong to later periods. Those periods are great regard for the Vyakhyanakāras, they were realistic. During that period, Saptarṣis, Ursamajor was no more circumpolar. So Udayam would be the head of Udayam. So it was a rising. And correspondingly, they would have seen some star. That's all what they would have said. That is how they would have interpreted. That is my first reaction.
Now, can you tell me again last sentence? When they are raising, right?
no, they are not circumpolar.
They are not circumpolar.
They are not circumpolar.
So then,
So those two, that you see, originally Saptarṣi qualities they have to be circumpolar. Number one, that property would have been lost by the time the Vyakhyana was done. So it would be a little bit, we have to be careful. Because what style they took, how the did the Vyakhyana for that, for the original shloka. The meaning might have been different. That is what I want to say. Then secondly, your reference to Śākalyasamhita and the 8-minute thing and the Kratu and the Vishnu Nakshatra, they tell me a totally different story. The reason is this, the names of the Saptarshis have been changed. The Nakshatra identification has not changed, but from the original time it has changed, from the Vedic time. The Vedic Saptarshis from the Ashwayana Sutra, they are not this. Even in the Mahabharata, in the Adi Parva, there is a Saptarshi statement. They are different from the Saptarshi statement which are given later. So, who was
The Ursamajor and the Brahmasamhita gives the same names, sir.
sorry?
Varahamihira and Brahmasamhita gives these same names. Kratu, Pula, Pulasya.
No. That's what but that is not the one which is there in the Adi Parva of Mahabharata, and also not the Vedic Saptarshi names. The sequence.
Atri is
Atri, Dhruva, Kutsa, Vasishtha, Gautama, Kashyapa. They have to be the names for the original one, you know. And Agastya Ashtamaha, that is the one, the Gotra Pravartakas, the Saptarshis, and also the original 7 rishis related to the 7 Rigurgamandalas, the family names. They are the canonical Saptarshis. That is how it is. Even the Aitreya Aranika, when it says Saptarshi or Nakshatra Shankruta Avasan, it says. So we have to be careful with this. The reason is the following. Kratu is the problem. Kratu is actually Yajna, which is in the Śiṣyadhīvṛddhitantra. And that is about the Vishnu Nakshatra. If Vishnu is in Hridayam, when it is rotating, it is going to be above that. And at that time it is possible, the movement of Draco or Dhruva was observed, and they took it to be some 8, whatever it may be. Amsha may mean sometimes minutes, sometimes degrees, sometimes maybe only in the Vedic sense, only a part, some part. What the value we don't know. Shravana as Vaishnava is there as the Devata, not in reference to the nakshatra itself in the Vedas. So we have to discriminate between the nakshatra.
Viṣṇupurāṇa, even in the deities of the chart which you published, actually, in the reverse education.
No, that is in the Siddhāntic time it is there. I don't.
But this 2700-year cycle is not mentioned in the Vedic.
No,
It is not. It is
No,
not.
but this is just a discussion.
Yes, sir.
So the whole this Saptarṣimaṇḍala is extremely intriguing. Now, Bhāgavatapurāṇa attributes it to Vrindagarga. Kashyapa, not Kashyapa. There is another Siddhānta Raja also. He also says it is a Vrindagarga Vachana which is there and he is quoting it. Kashyapa, which also is a later text, that also says it is as per Vrindagarga. But the 15 manuscripts we have collected of Vrindagarga and Śruti, it is not there. And that Anga is replaced by Yuga-Purāṇa, where I would expect Varahamihira says Saptarṣimaṇḍala, and before that the other things are there. In that exact place is a text called Yuga-Purāṇa, which of course has nothing to do with astronomy, it is more historical. So you have to keep this in mind. And what you said about Adbhutasāgara is correct. He gives that, and if you count it backwards, you get his time. That 1031 C or so. Now, it is the Lallā's formula only you can use. But you have to count from Rohini backwards, not forward.
Yeah.
Then you
End of Rohini backward, not the beginning of
then
Rohini.
you get the
Yes, sir. That's all that we did, but we thought it is too confusing even to present.
Here are asking, the relative positions of the stars don't change. So what is meant to be this nakshatra changing? Is there any astronomical explanation for this?
Astronomical explanation we couldn't arrive at. So it could be, see, from the Brahmasiddhānta, can you change it to next slides? Some verses are there which talk about Karkadistha, Mrigadistha. We have to get into it. We didn't go deep into it. It is something related to precession only, maybe some effect of precession. We couldn't make out. They say that this chakra is upachara, upacharyate, it says.
You are saying
So something imaginary or.
one nakshatra in 700 years is happening.
So what happens in that vector, she is pointing to whatever direction that constellation, and then that vector slowly grows because it's the sine theta function of the zenith of the pole.
No, but relatively since the stars are not changing.
Yes, but that vector,
European point will change.
sorry, the vector location as it is pointed out, it's just a little one constellation, the vector changes. Because of the fact that it's close to the rotation point. I mean, in principle, sphere is a fixed sphere and fixed stars.
Yeah, exactly.
But when you can start calculating the vector location and you think the slight distortion due to the fact that you are very close to the pole and not towards the equator. Usually that
Where has your paper appeared?
Yeah, it has, actually, I get it.
I get.
Excuse me. Have a small computer.
Yeah.
So,
Use mic.
Here, so as you say, like one time we see that 100, approximately 100, and then later astronomers don't talk about it or even try to refine it. But we see here that Bhatteshwara changes it to
1692
saying to 2700. He says 2550 or something like that.
Yes.
So he refines it. And there are other astronomers who kind of change the formula or they have different references.
They have not published it completely.
Yeah.
But I think Kamalakara in his commentary on Munīśvara's Siddhāntasārvabhauma, somewhere they say that we can't see, there is no astronomical phenomena discovered, but
Yeah, so
it
but
is
my question.
unseen, moving around, there is one unseen, something like that.
Kamalakara says.
Kamalakara says that.
So my question is that, see, if it is only once that 100 years has been observed and it is fixed, then why would a later astronomer try to create a formula which is approximately 100, or someone else coming up saying that a similar thing? So, and why didn't anyone say that, okay, this is not what we have to, like, this 100 years is not what we see. It changes from 100 to 700, or none of them talk about it, but they refer it. So that's my, and that's the motivation to do this paper and collect all the.
My personal. Okay. Now I'm going by my personal opinion. My personal opinion is they were looking for 100. They have a calendar of 1,000 years in precession. They have 1 year calendar in the solar calendar. So they were looking for a 100-year calendar to see if something fits. And this looked to be fitting like that 100-year calendar. The moment they realize that it is not happening, it gets disconnected from astronomy. Then you just keep on adding.
What I believe is that there might be some 100-year, and we are yet to see it in that lens.
That may be, but Saptarṣi vector pointing 100 years, it comes correct at the end of Mahabharata. That much I can tell.
Yeah, yes.
So that would be a good enough.
See, that based on this, you're saying Mahabharata time is that.
Yeah, I mean,
Because traditionally-
So, for example, if you look at flooding in Kurukshetra, etc., there are physical evidences which seem to tell a similar case.
The only hard point is that the data set is only one point.
Yes, the data set is only
And
one.
that's why I'm personally not convinced.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah.
later I'm saying it's an opinion.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.